So by looking at that chart, you can see somebody that's 62 inches is 125 pounds versus somebody that's 70 inches is 160 pounds. So we're going to use the calculator to create a scatter plot. So we could graph this by hand, making an x and y axis, labeling the x and y axis, and plotting these points. So x versus y. We're going to use the calculator to do that as well. So on that page of directions, there are 3 different sets of directions on there. The first set says to enter data, because we have to get the data entered in the calculator. Then we're going to graph it, and then the last thing we'll do is try and get the calculator to come up with the equation. I also have mine up here, so I'm going to work through it with you. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to find the stat button, which is right next to that gray arrow, set of arrows, up, down, left, right. So you're going to hit the stat. As I said, it is a little bit of statistics that we're looking at. And then we are going to edit, because we need to enter numbers into it. So you just have to hit the enter button. Does anybody have numbers listed in theirs like I have numbers listed in mine? So I'm going to go up and clear these. Never hit the delete. You always clear data, don't delete data. If you delete it, then literally like you're deleting the L2 from the top or the L1 from the top. So I'm clearing my values out. So L1 is X, L2 is Y. You just need to go down and enter all of the X values first, and then go to L2 and enter all of the Y values. So just go vertically down that list, type in 70, hit enter. You must hit enter, and then it bumps that number down bumps the little cursor down into the next one. And just make sure you're kind of double checking your numbers. One number wrong means the whole thing is wrong. And then arrow over using your right key, and then get those Y values into L2. So a couple of things, your last 2 values should line up together, so I shouldn't have more in one column and less in the other, because I have the same amount of data. If you do have that, then somewhere you missed a number, and they will not calculate it for you if you have more in one column than you do the other. And then again, just make sure that your numbers are correct, especially my numbers. Typing them in up here is a little harder. Questions so far? So that was the entering data. We have now numbers entered in, an X and a Y, and our goal is to see how they're correlated. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to try and graph this. And that would be the second set of directions that are on that sheet that I passed out. So how to make a scatter plot. Remember, this is just going to be a bunch of points. So to make a scatter plot, we're going to go over to the blue second button, and that's at the top left of your calculator. So if you hit second, and then you're going up to y equals. Above y equals, it says stat plot. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get this to kind of graph a statistical set of data. So this is what my screen looks like when I have stat plot. We need to turn it on so that it makes a scatter plot, because right now the calculator is only making a line. So it literally has to be told what kind of graph you're going to make. So if you hit enter, you can see that this actually can create a whole bunch of different types of graphs. So we can have a scatter plot. I can make it connect all the points. We could get a bar graph or a histogram. These guys down here, that's that fox and whisker plot, and this is kind of a stair-step pattern. So it does a whole bunch of different things for you that you probably never really used. But we're going to turn it on. So again, if you hit enter, now my on is bold. So that means it's making a scatter plot for me because that's the one that's highlighted. Questions? I don't know what step I'm on, but the next step it should say to hit zoom. Yeah, so step number 5, 4, and 5, if you hit the word zoom, which is at the very top, in the middle, so I'm going to hit that. And then we're going to just hit the number 9, because that would be the zoom that we're looking at, and that gets us into a scatter plot. So just kind of going to that number 9, it says zoom stat, so that kind of gets us into the statistical graph. So zoom 9, and now you should have a scatter. Again, yours should look like mine unless I entered something wrong. Or you entered something wrong. Anybody else have questions? Yeah. Yes. You'll do it enough that I promise that it won't need to. Like even after tonight, you'll go through it. By the end of today, we'll go through it twice, and then you'll have 2 problems at your homework. And tomorrow, you'll have 2 more problems. Wednesday, you'll have 3. So by the end of doing it all, you'll have it memorized. Other questions?
Mine looks almost the same except for like
We'll see the next step. We'll be able to see that's the same. So for part B, it says using your calculator make a scatter plot, and then it says list the window below. And the window is how I know if you graphed it correctly, because I literally can't walk around and check to make sure you all graphed it correctly. So the easiest thing for me to do is ask you to show the window. So if you hit the window button up here, the window tells you what your calculator is counting by on the x and the y axis, and it tells you also how far over the data has shifted. So if you hit window, we should all have the exact same window. So Jack, is yours the same?
yeah.
Then you're fine. Write the window down in your notes that you have. So this then tells me that you've plotted the same points that I did, and we all have exactly the same window. The only thing that might change might be the scale, but the x and the y values should be the same. So the x min means that's the lowest x value where it's starting on the x-axis. So instead of starting at 0, it's starting at 60.8. The x max, it's starting at 75.2. So the x-axis is now starting at 60.8 and ending at 75.2. The y-min, again, that tells you the first value on the y-axis that it's starting at, 113.95, and it's going up to 201.05. The scale is what the little tick marks are counting by, so that's what that scale means. We will use this window a lot throughout the year. So if you haven't used it before, we'll kind of start using it a little more and really working on how to change the window manually as well. Questions? So after you graph a scatter plot, you look at the window, and then we'll write that window down so that we know everybody's on the same page and has the same information. The last thing that the calculator is going to do for us is to actually come up with an equation. Our goal, here's my graph, is to find a line that goes through the majority of the data. That's that best fit line. And we could do that by taking a pair of points, high and low, finding the slope, taking another pair of points, finding the slope, another pair of points, finding the slope. Literally, I'd have to take a bunch of pair of points, find the slope, and then average all those slopes together. That's how we would do it by hand. That can take a long time, depending on how many points you have. So the calculator does it as well. So again, look at that last set of directions, and we're going to see if we can get the calculator to make a line that goes through all of our points, or at least in the middle of the points, and that's a best fitting line. So we're going to go back to the stat button. And now we're actually calculating something. So the calculator is going to calculate an equation for us. So you need to arrow right to the word calculate. And if you look down in that list, again, there's a lot of things in here. We will use various things throughout the year in the calculator. Number 4 says LINREG, which is linear regression. And then behind it, it shows you that it's in that line form since we're doing a line. So we're hitting number 4. And then depending on your calculator, you might have to hit calculate or enter a bunch of times to get it to calculate. So don't do anything, hit enter, enter. I have to enter a bunch of times until it gets down to that word calculate. You might not have to, depending on what kind of calculator you have. Questions? So right now, letter C says write the equation. Round A and B to 2 decimal places. So we're writing an equation for a line. A is the slope. B is the y-intercept. Round to 2 decimal places. So my slope is 5.33. 5.326 rounds up. That gets the x. The y-intercept is negative, so let's place a minus there. 209.48. And now we have an equation for our line. So y equals 5.33x minus 209.48. Questions? Again, we should all have the same equation. We use the same set of points. Part D says, what is the correlation coefficient? And that's the R that we were talking about at the top of your page, or no, on the bottom of the previous page. We don't have an R. I don't have an R, so we're going to have to grab the R. Once you get this, you shouldn't have to do it again, but if you want to make a note to yourself about how to do this, just in case, you can. But we're going to hit the second button, and we're typing a 0. Above 0, it says catalog. This tells you everything that your calculator can do. So now I'm in the calculator, and we're going to arrow down to where we see diagnostic on. So we're arrowing down till you see the D's, and you're looking for diagnostic on. Chris, question?
Where did you
Second, so the second button, and then 0, the number 0.
You can also press X minus 1 to drop to the
So the x minus 1, you have to do what? The second x minus 1, and it goes to the d, the third alpha.
and then you
No?
can 0 then the second catalog, and just press that.
Oh, so he just pressed the x to the negative 1, and it jumped down to the d's. Thank you, Jack. And you're looking again, it should say diagnostic on. So there's one that says off, obviously it turns it off. There's one that says on, which turns it on. And then you need to hit enter and enter one more time. And when it says done, then we should have the R in the calculator. So we're going to go back to get the equation one more time. So hit the stat button, go over to calculate, and you're hitting number 4. I know this is a lot of directions, which is why I gave them to you. You're going to need to use those directions until you feel comfortable with the buttons that you have to press in your calculator. So we're looking for the number R, not R squared. Rounding to 2 decimal places, we've got 0.84. And that's question D. I know that was a lot of calculator information. So the next couple of questions are kind of explaining what things mean. And we are now on to, so our equation 5.33x, 209.48, and our R value is 0.84. So kind of flipping back to the definition of the correlation coefficient, that's what the correlation coefficient, that R. What does it mean if it's 0.84? So what would that number mean being 0.84? So kind of look at the definition. What would this mean if it's 0.84? You want to take a shot at it, Nick?
What's the amount off the line?
So it tells us kind of how many points are kind of off the line or how close they are to being on the line. Nick, is that a positive or a negative value?
Positive.
It's positive. So since it's positive, it's going to be a positive correlation. If it's negative, it's a negative correlation. And you could say the data is closely related. The closer this number is to 1, which 0.84 isn't too far away from 1, the more those points are going to fit towards a line. So I wouldn't say it's a very close correlation, but you could say the data is closely related. If that were like 0.95, you would say it's very close to being linear, or 0.99. So letter E is where we're actually going to do a little bit of math. We did everything with the calculator so far. Use your equation. So we're using this equation that we have above, and I have it at the top of my screen, to predict the weight of a football player whose height is 5 feet 11 inches. How would you use the equation to predict the weight of a football player who is 5 feet 11 inches? So what do you think you'd have to do? Peter. Plug it in. How do you plug in 5 feet 11 inches? What is 5 feet 11 inches? 71 inches. And what are you plugging that in for, Peter? Yeah, so we're going to plug that in for x. So we want to find y, which is height. X is the weight. The weight forces somebody to kind of, I guess, grow more. I'm sorry, the other way around. The height forces somebody to weigh more. Since that's our x, 71, plugging that in. Plug that into your calculator. So predict the weight of a football player whose height is 71 inches. Peter, what would the weight of the football player be if you're 71 inches tall, according to our equation? Say it again, 160.95. And that's in pounds. So again, that's the average weight that fits our line of regression, that fits our best fit line. So on the team, somebody might be 71 inches tall, which they are, and they weigh 155 pounds. That's somebody on the team. This number here represents the average person that would be 71 inches. So on average, a person that's 71 inches would weigh 168.95 pounds. So this is our average information, not the person on the team. The next question says, what is the slope of the equation? So using the same equation, what's the slope? Jack, what's the slope? 5.33. And then it says, what does it mean? And this is where these problems get a little tricky. We have to explain what that slope means. Peter, what do you think it means? Yeah, it means pounds for every inch. So this is y over x. The y represents the pounds. The x represents the inches, and technically this is divided by 1 if I wanted to make it into a fraction. So we'll say for each inch you grow 5.33 pounds. Or you could say every inch you're gaining 5.33 pounds. I guess gain would be a better word than grow. Mr. Kane would be happy. So for each inch you gain 5.33 pounds. Something like that. Doesn't have to be exact, but somewhere in that wording. What's the y-intercept of the equation? Josh, what's the y-intercept?
209.40.
And how do you usually write a y-intercept, Josh? What's the x of the y-intercept? A 0. So we always write our intercepts as ordered pairs. So our x is 0.
And it's
Negative things. So now what does that mean? This one's weird. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. What does a y-intercept mean? So remember, x would be our, what's the x represent? Look in your table, Josh. What's the x represent?
when you're 0 inches tall, the way negative 2.48.
So the 0 represents our inches. The negative 208.48 represents the pounds. So technically, this is saying exactly as he said. When you are 0 inches tall, you weigh negative 209.48 pounds. I'll abbreviate there. Doesn't that make any sense? Not really. Because if you're 0 inches tall, you should weigh nothing because you don't exist. However, according to our data, the y-intercept is lower. So it's not going to start at the origin, it's starting lower underneath the origin. So sometimes it doesn't make sense, but that's what the values mean. So x is inches from my chart, y is pounds or the weight. So you have height and weight. So if your height is 0 inches, based off of the numbers in our chart, you would weigh negative 209.48 pounds. Questions? The last one wants you to find the x-intercept of our regression equation. So if I want to find x, what do you do with the equation to find x? Josh? You make y 0. So plug a 0 in for y and solve for x. So an x-intercept is when the y value is 0. A y-intercept is when the x value is 0. Eva, I think you have this.
Yeah, x equals 39.
Questions? So we're going to see if we can do the height and weight, or not height and weight, the ages of the people on the worksheet that I passed out to you. Keep out the calculator directions. We'll see if we can kind of get those calculator directions started again. But if you look at the sheet of famous people, if you haven't done so already, just maybe make a guess as to how old you think these people are. And I have to apologize to Ben Roethlisberger, I spelled his name wrong. Haste makes waste. I didn't autocorrect his name. Shame on autocorrect. So, guess how old you think those people are. It's okay if you don't know. Just make a guess. That's all you're trying to do here. So make a little guess. How old are the people on my sheet here? If you don't know who they are, it's okay. So I just randomly wrote down some numbers for my guess. Oh, here's my pen. All right, so Donald Trump. He was born in 1946. How old do you think he is, Peter? Yeah. Who's Julia Roberts? She's an actress. Yeah, just say a number. Trying to think of. Oh, she was in. What was she just in? A book. I read the book too. No. It'll come to me. Okay, so Donald Trump. He was born in 1946, in June, so he had a recent birthday. How old does that make him if he was born in 1946? 73. So if he was born in 46, he's 73. Taylor Swift was born in 1989. She is not yet turned 30, but she will be 30 in December. So she is 29.
Wait, so she said 29?
She's 29. She turns 30 on December 13th.
I was one off.
Oprah was born on January 1st, 1954. So how old is Oprah? She was born in 54. 65. Will Smith, he was just in, isn't where there was a new Men in Black movie out this summer, I think, right? Yes.
Yeah.
So Will Smith was born in 1968. He has a birthday this month. So he is still 50. He has not yet turned 51. So he's 50. Ben Roethlisberger was born in 1982, in March of 1982. God bless you. So that makes him 37. Beyonce was born the year before. She just had a birthday this weekend. So she was born in 81. So she just turned 38. So she was born in 81. She just turned 38. Justin Timberlake, also born in 81. So he's also 38. Matt Murray. Who's Matt Murray? Cole. Yeah, he's our Penguins goalie. Cole, do you know how old he is? He's 25. Oh. So he turned 25 in April. Actually, May. Selena Gomez. How old is she? 30. She was born in 92. Oh. So 92, 27. She had a birthday in July. And then the last one, Julia Roberts, and I still can't think of this book and movie. She was born in 67. She's not had a birthday yet. So she's 51. How'd you do?
Not good.
Pretty good? Somewhat good? So what I'd like you to do, and I know the bell is going to ring, but I would like you to make X or L1 your guess being the X, L2 being the actual age. And then there's some questions on the back. So I would like you to kind of work on this for homework. And then I have a worksheet that I'm going to hand to you as well. So the goal is for you to try and get familiar with the calculator, plugging the numbers into the calculator. I was hoping to have a little more time for that activity. Never enough time. We'll talk about the activity more tomorrow. I have another activity that we'll do as well. We can do a lot of activities with this. This is two problems It's just like, there's questions about each one, kind of like we did with the home, or the notes. Have an awesome day.